Turn it on first.
Always encountered someone, whether it's like a friend or to help someone. And I'm really grateful for the time that I have with Marl.
It's a tricky thing,
They
eh?
don't make it easy, do they? Don't make it easy.
I'll just hold it. Bill McLeod could not be here tonight and sends his regrets, but wanted me to read the following on his behalf. Marl, I miss all the time we spent together, our adventures, and all the projects. Greetings come from Jamie Pacheco from downtown metropolitan Karamias, BC. He wants me to share this. I remember when I first saw Marl, shortly after moving to Fort Nelson in 1992. I saw what I thought was an old hippie that worked for the town. A couple of years later, I met him and got to work with him on some of the old cars at the museum at his shop and at a shop in town. Marl embodied all that I had wanted to be. He was a mechanic, an engineer, a designer, and so much more. He was, to me, and I am sure to many others, a Renaissance man. I loved him like an older brother, and I am grateful that he allowed me into his world. In my stint as president of the Historical Society, we did not always agree, but we always found enough common ground to go forward. Marl will be greatly missed at the museum, yet I see the Historical Society has placed the museum in very good hands so it can continue to go forward. We would now like to open it up to anyone who is in attendance that has something that they would like to share.
Hello, everyone. I know many of you here. My name is Anouk Dinana. It's so nice to see you all. I'm just up here visiting. And yeah, so I've been a longtime friend of Mavis and Marl's. Marl and my dad were really good friends, and luckily for me, Mavis was my mom's best friend too. So Mavis asked me to read this letter that, so lately Mavis, in the goal of being able to see the floor in her bedroom and walk straight up to the wall, has been going through piles of papers and cards and newspapers and many things. And so this would have been in the, I believe, in the 1998 Christmas card file. And so this is a lovely letter from this couple who visited in August of 1998. So here it is. Albuquerque, New Mexico, the 3rd of December, 1998. And I'm reading this because Mavis, when she read it just a few days ago, felt that it really just described and embodied so well, you know, how we feel about Marl and what we've seen of Marl and how he, you know, was with people and what he brought to everyone, really. And so, dear Mr. Marl Brown, we sent, okay, hold on here, it's getting dark. No, that's not even it, it's just dark. Okay. We send you greetings of the season and want you to know that we are still appreciating our visit with you there at the Heritage Museum last 21st of August. We wouldn't expect you to remember us since you probably meet many, many new people over a year's time. But we sure do remember you and the gracious way in which you answered our inquiries while visiting the museum. I just need a light, honestly. Can you turn your phone on, Kim? Oh, thank you. Yeah. That's not the glasses, it's just the light. Thank you so much. Sorry. Yeah, this is much better. The gracious way in which you answered our inquiries while visiting the museum and your auto garage. We remember with joy your pleasant way of speaking, your patience and willingness to share some of your vast knowledge of things mechanical. I especially enjoyed listening to some of the old automobiles actually run after you started them for us, including the 1909 wooden-framed machine. Thanks so very much for those kindnesses. We look forward to seeing you again one of these days on a return trip to Canada's Northwest and Alaska. Best wishes, Dawn and Millie Kerner. And so, yeah, I do agree with Mavis that, you know, it really did describe so well, so succinctly, Marl's kindness, his willingness to just, you know, very gently and yet enthusiastically discuss and share and answer questions, even though we all know that he would answer those questions several times a day, every day for decades. And yet, you know, he was never impatient. He was never in a hurry. Always took the time and to, you know, to do those fun things like turn on, you know, various autos, trucks, and also the machines that he himself so skillfully created that, you know, frankly, we've never seen anywhere else and never will, right? So thank you so much.
And I just wanted to pass on some greetings from different people, friends of Fort Nelson Museum, and from Pam Geyer. Pam's husband, Henry, was one of the 35th engineers who worked here, and they came up a couple of different times, including when we had the unveiling of the Veterans Monument for the Alaska Highway constructions. Henry has passed away, but Pam has huge warm feelings towards Fort Nelson, and she passes along her greetings. Also, Mr. Chester L. Russell. Chester is 101 years old now, and he, of course, is the author of Tales of a Cat Skinner. And in his book, he blamed me for saying, Chester, you should write a book about that. Anyhow, Chester was a great friend of the Fort Nelson Historical Society and Museum, and I spoke to him a couple of times, once this past month or so, and so he's the last of the guys who were here that I know of, although there could be others, but Chester passes on the best to the museum as well. Also, Colonel McCarty. Nobody knows who Colonel McCarty is, except if you go and take a look at the Veterans Monument, there's two guys on cats shaking hands. And the tall, skinny one is Colonel McCarty, and the other one is Colonel Lyons. And Colonel McCarty's wife was up here in about 98 or something, and had a chance to see the museum and meet the folks and things, and we're really quite taken with things. And so Mrs. McCarty passed away this year at 105. And also when the museum was being put together for the Veterans Memorial, the McCarty folks down in, I think, Michigan, sent along a $2,000 check from their own funds because it was the right thing to do. So those folks, and I've also had some good contact with Giorgio from Italy, the guy whose picture is right there. And he also took one kick-ass black and white picture there that we'll have a chance to see some more of later on. So those are some of the friends of Fort Nelson Museum, and I thought it was only right to go ahead and mention them.
I'd just like to say a few things about Marl. I've known him since I guess I came to Fort Nelson in 1990, and Mavis was one of the first people I met and got to know, and we've been friends ever since. And of course, got to know Marl about the same time, and I think that fall they convinced me I should go to the museum AGM, and I got talked into volunteering for treasurer, and I've stepped down a couple, well, at least once in that time, but I'm back doing it again, so I keep getting sucked into it. And that's a large part due to Marl. So, you know, I worked with Marl and had him as a friend for so many years, and it's just hard to believe that he's gone. I can think of some of the things, like the time there's a belt that drives the motor on my furnace, and it snapped in the middle of, 30 below cold snap on a Saturday night, and didn't know what to do, so I called Marl, and he just happened to have a belt the right size down at his shop, because he's that kind of guy. And we kind of had a deal. He had his dog Sadie for quite a few years, and Marl, as Mavis said, was not a walker. So I took Sadie out with my dog a lot, and in return, Marl came and did things like he built fires for us for the ski club when we did our moonlight skis and stuff like that. And we used to have great talks down at his shop when I was picking up Sadie or dropping it off. And you ever wanted anything done, he would do it for you. You needed a hole drilled in something, or you needed him to make you something or whatever, he would always do it, and he'd show you what he was working on and all that kind of good stuff, and that was so good. One of my best museum related stories I think about Marl is the parade one year, and it was, Fort Nelson Parade has kind of had its ups and downs, and I think this was in one of the downs, and there wasn't much of a parade, and the museum was, I don't know, Marl was not going to really bother putting anything in that year, and I convinced him that no, the museum had to have something in the parade. So he was going to drive, I think, the brush with Mavis, and he let me drive the Model A. That was the first time he ever let me drive the Model A. He let me drive it quite a few times after that, and it always amazed me, because when I tell you what happened, so he's giving me some little driving lessons. I drive standard, but I'd never driven a Model A before. It's got a different shift pattern, and you have to be a little more careful shifting it. It's not like modern vehicles that have they change gear pretty easily. Well, I discovered that when you're driving the Model A, it's really easy to jam the gears. If you don't shift and make sure it goes into neutral before you try and shift into the other one, what happens is the gears will go like this, and the thing's not moving anywhere. So that's what I did. Anyway, and this is just down at the museum before we had to drive down to the parade. So Marl pulls up the floorboards, and he's in there with his fingers and getting it all straightened out, and we got it going again. And so I was real careful not to do that again. We got all the way down to the parade, and Mavis was waiting for her down there at near Dan's or A&W or whatever. Maybe even A&W might not have been there at the time. I don't remember. And we're late, right? Because I jammed the gears. And Mavis has given Marl a hard time, because not only are we late, but his fingers are all dirty and all this stuff too. And he never let on that it was all my fault. He was such a sweet man that way. And it was my fault we were late, and it was my fault his fingers were dirty. And Mavis has given him a hard time about it. And he never, like most guys would have said, well, it's all her fault. Yeah, not Marl. So, the Red Deer swap meet. You guys remember, he used to go down there every year. Every year he'd ask me, he said, can I have a check before I go? He wanted a blank check to take with him. Every year it's like, no, Marl. You cannot have a blank check to take down to the Red Deer swap meet. But he'd ask every year. Probably. But, yeah. Once he lost Sadie, I didn't hang out down at the shop nearly as often, because that was my kind of excuse for going there, and really missed those days of hanging out down at the shop with him, and Bill would often be there, or various other interesting friends would be hanging around or working on stuff and whatever. And it was yeah, I miss him a lot. I'm sure everybody else here does too. So those are just a few of my memories.
Anyways, some of you guys don't know this and some of you do, but I moved up here in May of 1991. Anyways, my trip on the Alaska Highway started in Dawson Creek. And I used to send postcards home to my younger siblings because I was alive. And this was one of the postcards that I literally sent because I literally lived over the Walmart out where someone needs to on cookie box, this dude. And oh my god, like, how would they ever do? Anyways, I get up here like a year and a half after living in Dawson Creek after sending this postcard home, this Alaska Highway bus, because my dad used to say to me, why the hell are you going to Dawson Creek? It's Aspen the north, Fort Nelson's 300 miles up it. That's what he would say, right? But now, here am I, my dad is an Aboriginal man, there's a lot of, he was very hurry for me to get up here. So, and this was after my ex-fiance and I broke up. Anyways, I come to town and I'm walking out of Big City. Now we all know Sandra, because their kids were raised up in Big City or in the Burke Park. So I was the maid that literally had to go and get everything for the kids. I walked out of Big City and I had that beautiful piece of peach juice, you know, that they had in that machine. And I'm carrying everything and trying to get Charlie lots of stuff over downtown. And the juice turned down the front of his shirt. And he goes, here. And he opens the door and goes, let me get that up for you. And it's the real man. You guys, now I have beautiful boys that talk just like their grandpa. My daughter blows people's minds. The buying trips that I let Jacob go on, they stopped asking me at the school when those were going to end because I said, you know, they're just as beneficial. Anyways, you guys, here's my beautiful story of the man who walks and I asked him to lick the peach juice off the plate. I was so blown away that normally Grandma knows this about me. I probably would have elbowed him in the chops. But it was like celebrity shit. You guys are totally excited. Yeah, we miss it. Anybody else?
And on that note, we will close the meeting. I will look. I do have a confession to make. I did play with the thermostat, Marl, and I am so sorry. I felt so guilty about this. He has a thermostat behind the albino moose that nobody's allowed to touch. And to make sure that nobody touched it, he put a little mark with a pen where the thing was supposed to be before I started. I got cold. I knew where the thermostat was, and I turned it up. Anyway, I don't know if he checks it weekly or bi-weekly or quarterly, but anyway, he checks it. Who the hell turned the thermostat up? And he was mad. Like, he was mad. Not me. I have no idea. I didn't even know it was there, I said. But right after he passed away, I just wanted to know I turned it back. So now, if I could look for a motion to close the meeting, that would be wonderful. Brenda, seconded by Giles. Everybody's in favor. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching.